let's convert a sketch into some vector art. Start by placing the sketch as a template and resize as necessary. For something like an anime character, I start by creating a layer of all the outlines, and for this I just use the pen tool with no fill. Any proportionality adjustments should be made now. Otherwise, you're just tracing all of your pencil and paper sketch lines. When you finish the outline, make sure that these layers are locked. These are the layers that you will copy and paste in order to create color layers and shading layers, so you really don't want to lose this information. To prepare for a base color layer, you need closed shapes. So use a strokeless pen or brush if you don't want to see the lines, but try to close shapes where there will be new colors. Create a new layer and copy your old outlines into this layer. You can do this by clicking the little colored box and holding down Option and dragging it into the new layer. Lock the other layers, select all, and use the Shape Builder tool to create closed shapes that can take color. I like to create new shapes using a bold color or gray so that I can see what shapes have already been created. It can also show me where there are small gaps that need to be corrected before a shape can be created. Put the base color layer underneath the outline layers and begin choosing your colors. One of my favorite tricks for shading is the Eyedropper tool. Take a sample of the unshaded color and simply move the slider down so that it is a little bit darker. I start with a darker base to color the eyes. I use the ellipse tool to create the pupil because I simply aesthetically prefer the smooth look. For the iris, I use lighter colors and I decrease the opacity. Sometimes I start by drawing a quick shadow just to give me a guideline, but the first shadow is pretty rarely the last one I draw. Anime eyes are extremely iconic in how they glitter and shimmer, but they can be very annoying because they take so long and so many iterations to get just right. I edited out a lot of trials and errors with these eyes, so don't feel bad if it takes you a long time to figure out just the right way to draw these irises. The good news is if you draw in Adobe Illustrator, you can use copy and paste to get both eyes to be not only similar, but you can also cut out a lot of work. So essentially what I have come to do is draw one really good eye, usually the larger eye, with respect to how the face is turned, and then I can simply match that pattern or that design of iris to the second eye. In order to match this iris to his left eye, I use the pen tool to draw out the edge of his iris. I use no stroke, and then I use the shape builder tool to make this a closed shape. Then I can use draw inside, do a quick scribble, and move the entire iris into that clip group. I can delete the scribble, rearrange things a little bit, and then we're done. Well, except for the eye shimmers, which of course are absolutely essential. Right, now I move on to shading the clothes. So I start with the shirt, and of course we copy and paste our outline, and then I use the shape maker tool and a hideous color just to really make it obvious where the new shapes are. And then click on all of the new shapes and group them together so that I can easily get rid of all of the extra paths that I really don't need. So all of these get deleted, and all of these get deleted, and then I move all of these back out of the group. Okay, so now I can select all and say no fill, and then begin using the draw inside function just to keep me inside the lines. And it doesn't matter that I'm using a black color here for my brush stroke, just so long as you have a color which is very clearly different from the base color which you are shading. So basically all I'm doing is going over these lines, thickening a few of them up, and trying to imagine where shadows would fall based off of sunlight or some light source. When I finish making these shadows, I use my eyedropper tool trick again to get the right shadow color. Now the eyedropper tool will not only pick up the color that you sample, but whether or not that color belongs to a fill color or a stroke color. And so if you are sampling something like I am, which is a fill color of this boy's shirt, then you'll need to make sure that you swap out the stroke color and the fill color, and then you set the fill color to none. Now we're doing the same thing for the pants. So I've just made a new layer. I'm copying the outline to this new layer and then locking the outline again, and then going through and making my hideously colored new shapes. Again, I do the same exact thing for the hair. I start with a darker layer, sort of a shadow layer, and then I move on to highlights, and finally I add a little bit of roughness and texture by using a stroke with a different opacity. So all of these strokes so far are full opacity, and I will simply change them based off of the eyedropper technique. Here is where I reduce the opacity and create some roughness. Make sure that these strokes are layered underneath the strokes that have full opacity, just because it can dull highlights and make some shadows look a little awkward. I'm gonna give this man some blushies now, and maybe he's the shy type. So I do 2 normal strokes, and then I make a Gaussian blur here. So blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm gonna make it really quite blurry actually. And after I've sort of set that, reduce the opacity just to calm down those blushies. I also use this technique to create a little bit of shadow on his forehead. I finished shading the ears, jaw, and hand with a typical brush stroke. So now I want to adjust the pen stroke a little bit, and I really like this pen stroke that has 2 pointed ends, and I really enjoy the thinner lines, so I'm going back through and cleaning up a few of these lines. The eyelashes now need to be adjusted because these brush strokes look too bulky and round on the ends, so I go back over those and sort of adjust things a little bit, make them look a little thicker, and sort of fade out towards the end. I add a little bit of character to his eyebrows by using the reduced opacity technique used in the hair. And that is just about it. We have successfully converted my rough sketch into a shimmery-eyed, blushy-cheeked, gray-haired boy.